Good morning. So once again we meet to talk about Russia's war in Ukraine. We're approaching a year mark in the calendar, which gives an opportunity actually to not just to establish what has been achieved throughout the year, but think about months, days, weeks to come. And this is where I think it's a very important point that we need to make, that there are no two camps in Europe. There is no victory and peace camp. We have to stay as one peace after victory camp, and not just in Europe, but with all those supporting Ukraine. We have to commit with actual content to Ukrainian victory. We have to put meaning to the words when we say that we're sticking with Ukraine till the end. We have to actually admit that the end is Ukrainian victory, reconquering all its territories. We have to commit to sending the weapons that Ukraine needs in full capacity for them to be able to retake the territory. And we have to commit that negotiation cannot happen with those who are expected at the special tribunal that we are hoping to create for the war crimes and atrocious war crimes that are happening in Ukraine. We do not negotiate with war criminals. We negotiate maybe with those who lost the war about the settlement of the after-war conditions.
And are you worried, Minister, in this context and these conditions that we are talking about, that war could extend to other countries, including the risk of one extending to Baltic states? How do you estimate this risk?
Well, first of all, this is one of the reasons why we say that the war has to be won in Ukraine. If it's not war in Ukraine, if it's stopped in Ukraine, then we at the beginning of writing a new chapter of the next war to come. We've started writing the new chapters in 2008 when the war was stopped in Georgia, when there was no victory, but there was some sort of a peace agreement. So we wrote a chapter for attacking Crimea. After Crimea, we started writing a chapter for 2022, and now I hope that this is the last chapter, that this is it, that Russia loses, fully loses, and we reclaim the territories of Ukraine, and the continent can again be safe and secure. We are very much closely looking into what our partners are saying. Indeed, it will be an extremely worrying development in the war. I would not discount that possibility, because the no boundaries relationship that was agreed between the two countries can, at least in our mind, include also sending lethal weapons to Russia, who's not doing so well in the war, for it to push Ukraine further. But then we would be at the start of a very dark period globally. I rate it as a good step forward. The only thing that worries us is the derogations that are constantly proposed to any current sanction packages that are put on the table. So we are for the sanctions, we are not for the derogations. Oh, one thing that I can definitely mention is Rosatom. We should definitely put that on the table. We should definitely have also a public debate about adding Rosatom to the sanctions. It's way overdue. I know that some countries are worried about contracts that are in place, that they need those contracts in order for their nuclear power plants to be operational. That's needed for their nuclear safety, that's needed for their energy safety. It's understandable, but we can derogate that. The same way we did with oil. Some countries could not be able to forfeit the contracts, the oil contracts with Russia, so we left them. But still 95% of the imports to European Union were sanctioned, are now under embargo. Same thing can happen with nuclear, with Rosatom. Thank you.
Sorry, with regard to China, Secretary Blinken has said he's worried that China is going to start delivering weapons to Russia. What is your message right now to China, and what consequences would there be from the European, or should there be from the European Union if they do that?
I think that China might be betting on the fact that the global north, the way it's trendily called now, is too much focused on Ukraine. But I think that the lesson has to be drawn that there were those who expected the West, global North, not to be united when it came to Russia's attack on Ukraine, or we were united. So there's a lesson in that. So I would think that drawing from this lesson, there would be enough arguments for China not to assist Russia in its what I call genocidal war in Ukraine. Thank you.
Minister, you mind?
I'm not sure whether I'm not sure.
Just a very quick question.
Please.
Rumor has it, or the Americans are afraid that China might start
Oh,
delivering
yeah.
weapons.
Yeah.
Are you concerned?
Of course, very much concerned. Exactly a year ago, a no-bounds friendship and partnership agreement has been agreed between the two countries. In our mind, that could include also weapon deliveries to Russia. But I hope that enough arguments have been presented throughout the year when we've seen the West can stay united, can be united, and have a united answer with sanctions, with political isolation, so that the countries would think twice whether they want to get themselves involved with assistance to Russia in Russia's war against Ukraine.
But could the EU actually afford to sanction a country like China?
Well, I think that we have to send a very strong signal that basically we are able to make decisions and agree on sanctions, on isolation, and on other things. This is the instrument that we have. We cannot afford no bounds partnership, forming an alliance against a country that is in our neighborhood, a candidate European country, a European Union country. I think it would be unmanageable if we would not have any sort of answer.
Do you think enough is being done since Russia's economy is only shrinking by 2.5%?
Well, sanctions is a long engagement. That means that we have to wait for it to fully kick in. We're seeing a lot of happening. Let's say oil revenues are dropped by 1/3. That's a lot of money that is out of Russia's coffers. But as in any other case, more needs to be done, and I'm very happy that European Commission, together with member states, are still working on new sanction packages. It shows that the sanctions as a mechanism is an alive and active one. It's not a passive one where you just adopt and you leave it be. But we check it back, we increase the pressure. So I think it's still a very good way forward. And again, it's a forming mechanism. Before that, no country has been sanctioned as much as Russia. No country has been sanctioned by that many countries globally. So it's not just the EU. So I think we are testing also. It's a sanction as a mechanism, as an instrument of isolation, is being tested as we speak.
And what do you think about the joint purchase proposal by Estonia for ammunition?
I think the one that Josep Borrell will be proposing today, I think it's a if we're talking the same thing, I think it's a good one. Definitely, we are always supporting these sort of ideas. The point is basically to broaden the answer a little bit. We need to have a very clear commitment to Ukrainian victory, and these sort of agreements, they add to that. Because we've been discussing tanks for so long. Now we're discussing F-16s. It might take a very long time, but we need to commit to the things that Ukraine needs right now in order to win the territories, to win its full independence, full sovereignty, and territorial integrity back. And that requires the weapons that we are still not being able to send or produce in our factories.
Minister, Iran now is involved, and maybe China also will be involved in the war, Russian, Ukrainian. Where are we going? Are we going to divide the world to two sides, one against the other?
Well, if you consider the alliance between Iran and Russia, a world divided, and then it is divided, but into very unequal groups. Where we on one side what I would call even though that the term was used before, an axis of evil. And I would add North Korea to that, So it's three rogue countries that are bent on changing the world rules, but I don't think that they are able to do that. They are just aligning themselves because probably there's nothing else that they can do. Most of the world depends on the rules that Russia, Iran, and North Korea are trying to break. Even though they sometimes are less vocal, sometimes they do not join the sanctions, but they need the rules as everybody else. They want to be safe. They want to be citizens, the people of their countries to be safe freely with the rest of the world. I think that is the general spirit of 98% of the world. Thank you so much. I need to let other people talk. Thank you.